Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Democracy 3. Today, we have been elected President of the United States of America. Or rather, we're about to be. There's the USA. Let's become the Herdian Party, of course. So, Herdian Party. We're going to go against the Republicans. Term length, of course, 4 years. 2-term limit. We have hurricanes and earthquakes. We'll keep the default settings. Let's begin. This should be interesting, because going into this, I don't really have any idea of what I want to do. I don't know where I want to take America. I do have a challenge that I'm tempted to put forward, though. And that challenge is, I'm tempted, very, very tempted, to see if I can perhaps alter my term limit. I want to see if that is a thing that we can do in here, because I've done it in Democracy 3 Africa, which was sort of a standalone expansion to this game. So I want to see if we can go in here and see anywhere to get rid of term limits. It doesn't necessarily look like that is something I can do, which is a bit unfortunate. It would have been nice to maybe see if I can get the people of America to vote to keep me in office for a bit longer. Anyway, let's see what we have here. So we have alcohol abuse as a problem. We have, what is this, vigilante mobs. We have internet crime. We have antisocial behavior, an obesity crisis, drug addiction, an asthma epidemic. We have an uncompetitive economy. We have homelessness. We have pollution. Oh my god. We have a skills shortage, but we do, of course, have a technological advantage. So we're not doing terribly, but we could certainly be doing better. Now let's have a little look and see what we have in here. We do have quite a few things. We have 25 political capital, I think. Yes, we do. So 25 political capital. Let's see. What else is down here? So, a lot of things I don't really want to ban. Stem cell research would be nice, although expensive. It does really help with technology. But I think something I'm going to attempt to do with America is hit crime a little bit and attempt to push forward healthcare. I think healthcare is something that we need to spend more money on. But the problem is that we currently only have state health services for life-threatening conditions. And if I wanted to do, you know, excellent healthcare, it's going to cost me another almost $200 billion per quarter. So that's probably not going to be happening for the time being. When it comes to dealing with crime, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and start stomping things out immediately. But of course, we do also have the issue that some things take time to come into effect, which is actually something I learned in between the United Kingdom series and this one, that some things, well, I didn't learn it, but I realized there is a lot more strategy to this than I necessarily anticipated, and I learned that through watching Quill18 play this game. Basically, if you want the capitalists to not kill you, what you need to, if you want to build a socialist utopia, you don't just get the socialists to love you because you still have capitalists. You need to get rid of the capitalists, and to do that, you can do things like, let's say, and let's use these guys as an example. If I raise petrol tax, you notice that the motorists, they do hate it, but also the motorist membership goes down. So in the case of capitalists, I would need to, say, get rid of them. If I wanted to get rid of the religious, I would need to do that over time. As opposed to just building a society that is, in my case, in the space of 4 years as Prime Minister in the UK, was suddenly very anti-capitalist. I would have needed to build that society over the course of many terms as Prime Minister. That's basically how this has to work. So I need to build things up very, very slowly, very carefully, and not wind up in a situation where I'm going to be shot. I can, of course, deal with some of these groups, the Battenberg group, for example, the ones that shot me, if I go ahead and increase my spending for armed police and intelligence services, I could have CCTV cameras, ID cards, I believe community policing's in here? No. Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're gonna go and get I want to get CCTV cameras. I can't get them currently. So instead, I want to get, this is gonna take 5 quarters for community policing. 1 quarter for the Race Discrimination Act, though. So let me get that immediately and spend a lot of money on it. Racial tension goes down. The Conservatives don't like, but that is okay. And this number here shows you how many turns it's going to take, how many turns of inertia there are. So basically, this tells you how long it's going to take for the thing to be in effect fully. So these go into effect immediately. The membership for the number of liberals, I think, or the general amount of liberalism in the country goes up a little bit. So this is absolutely worth it. Let's get the Race Discrimination Act. Now, the death penalty is an interesting one. I can't currently cancel it, so I'm not going to bother looking at it. But I could still look at community policing. The problem is that it is expensive. So what may be an idea would be to look at ways to perhaps fight the uncompetitive economy. You can do things like that through education. So if I wanted to come over and start spending a bit more money on education, that is a thing I could do. I could look at taxes and say things like, here are, what have we got? We have, there are some things here that will benefit business and enterprise investment scheme. I could put that forward, which will basically give tax breaks to wealthy individuals who invest their money in small startup companies. So I feel like I'm going to put this forward. I don't care for the $14 billion per quarter. I'm going to knock it down to $5 billion per quarter, approximately. So we do get some small boosts, which is excellent. This is going to take a while to come into effect. This will take a while to come into effect, but that does give a minuscule boost to the GDP. So I want to apply that. And I also want to look at things like, not necessarily tax shelters, work safety laws will be a good idea. Business startup campaigns are also an idea. I think I will go with that. Socialism goes down a little bit, but again, the capitalists like it, and this gets people money to start up their own company. Let's just max that out. And that's fine. And let me also have a look at my cabinet. So we're doing okay at the moment. I think I'm just going to hold on to my capital. I don't really want to do much else this turn. I want to see how the world is looking. So let's see. Currently getting 35% of the vote. The budget, international credit rating agencies give us a BB. This is a bad sign. We'll fix that. Good news, the global economy is doing well. Okay. That's fine. I now have 39 political capital, which means I can spend a lot of that doing some interesting things. Now, I could do an airline tax, which will bring in a lot of money. An alcohol tax would be an interesting one, too, to bring in a lot of money. We could get up to 700 billion on a carbon tax. I think I'm very tempted to look at the alcohol tax. It's not really popular, but that would be a serious way to bring in money. But then again, I don't really know that I want to look at taxes as a way to bring in money. People don't like it when you raise taxes, so let's not just jump on the bandwagon of increasing taxes. I don't think that's a good idea. I do want CCTV cameras, and I'm gonna have every street corner a CCTV camera. Liberals really don't like it. But crime, violent crime, antisocial behavior, vigilante mobs, that all goes away. The Conservatives do like it, so that's fine. CCTV cameras are incredibly useful. So, let's see what else we have around here. We do need to help the economy. And I could look at going, we are very pro-employer. If we go the other way, the working week is significantly hurt. Let's see. So, productivity. Yes, so we want to go pro-employer for productivity, and right now that is what we want, so we're not going to switch that out. In terms of technology grants, again, I mean, I could put more money in there, but that's super expensive. Let's see, what else do we have? We do have things like a National Business Council, a Trade Council, not so much. A National Business Council gives a strong voice to business interests and ensures that the needs of businesses, both big and small, are taken into account. Okay. The Young Entrepreneurs Scheme will help and support young people who are aiming to become businessmen in the future by giving them opportunities to learn from veterans and detailed information about what to do and who to ask. This will increase happiness amongst capitalists as they see their future secured. It's not a lot of money. I'm not necessarily aiming to build a capitalist society, but I want to make sure that businesses are being supported. I want to make sure that businesses are making money. So again, we'll go to the next turn and see what's happening on the global scale. We have a debt protection law. So I generally always limit agency activity with these things, so that's fine. 43% of the vote currently. The economic forecast is all right. We're still a BB. The Church of Christ are holding town hall meetings to express their anger at the current government. Okay. So that's on the decline. Antisocial behavior is on the decline. Alcohol abuse is consistent. That'll go away eventually. Internet crime, I will do something about. The obesity epidemic is something I want to sort out as well. But I might leave that for something like my second term. Now, we do have a big deficit here. We are now spending a lot of money, which is an issue. So let's see if we can start helping that. We are constantly spending money. We need to pull back on that a little bit. We need to make some money again. So we have things like foreign aid. We could spend a bunch of money on that. We could cut foreign aid if I really wanted to, but I don't really want to do that. What else do we have? We have import tariffs. That could make us some money. We don't really have anything else, though. So that's fine. In terms of transport, I don't really think there's anything I want to do there. In terms of crime, most of that's going away. Drug addiction, we will deal with it. I think healthcare is something I want to touch upon in my second term if I get there, which it looks like I currently will. In terms of skills shortage, I do need to boost. I do need to get public libraries. That would help with the skills shortage. That lets people learn new skills. It's expensive, but I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna keep it about $10 billion. I know I just said that we're spending money and need to make money, but getting rid of the skills shortage would really help. Getting rid of the uncompetitive economy would really help. Pollution is on the decline, which is good. Technological advantage is actually going up ever so slightly, which is also good. In terms of creationism versus evolution, if I make a big push towards evolution only, the liberals suddenly love it. The religious membership goes down. I'm considering this, but I feel the reason I'm considering it is more so from a gameplay standpoint, less from a personal belief. I think you have the right to believe whatever you want to believe. But in terms of a gameplay standpoint, having more of a technological advantage would be really, really good. But before I do that, I feel increasing my intelligence services is something I would want to do. Because if I suddenly create these sort of extreme groups of people who are very angry with me that I'm getting rid of just this and that, basically, yeah, we don't want to get shot, is what I'm saying. So, let's see. If I do community policing, liberals like it. Crime goes down, this one goes down, liberalism goes up, unemployment goes down. Antisocial behavior and alcohol abuse go down. I'm gonna just sort of plop that there at about 8 billion. And I feel like that's the last bit of spending that I really want to do. I feel like, first off, the plastic bag tax could be a really good thing to put in there. That's going to make us a little bit of money. I'm just going to crank it up there. We're just going to do a maximum tax, get a little bit of money from that. An automation tax is a terrible idea. Health food subsidies, whatever. Let's actually look at narcotics. If I was to legalize cannabis, liberals like it, parents don't. Crime is hit positively, which is probably bad. Conservatives don't like it. Legal drug consumption goes up. Generally speaking, drug addiction looks like it is helped, so maybe I don't want to touch that currently. I'm not really sure. I think we'll just go to the next quarter and see what's up. So aerospace contract has been won. One of our aircraft manufacturers has just won a huge contract to produce new planes. The GDP is up slightly. Unemployment is down. Credit rating is down. Okay, so that was pointless, really. 47% of the vote. We're now up to a B. I don't know if a B is 1B better than 2 Bs. I really don't know. Let's see. The Human Rights Society has been criticizing the government on the radio. Okay. The deficit is still up there, though. Let me have a look at some things here. So, public libraries aren't fully in effect, are they? Which means... Oh, we still have a space program. It's tempting to cut the space program a little bit. It is very tempting to cut the space program a little bit. Just purely because it is a pretty solid way to make a little bit of money. But I don't like the idea myself. I really don't. So I'm going to revert those changes. I'm not going to bother. I can still look at taxes. I can still look at things like an alcohol tax or an airline tax. An internet tax will bring me a lot of money and is actually popular. That's interesting. Opponents on an internet tax claim that such a move would cripple the high-tech economy and do enormous harm to the country's competitiveness. I would agree with that. Although it's somewhat popular, I don't think it's a good idea. An alcohol tax... I really don't know. Do we have a tobacco tax currently? We do, and it's 11%. So, in a sense, I mean, tobacco, let's not get into the specifics of it, but generally speaking, smoking is seen as bad for you. Alcohol is just as bad, worse, not as bad. It is not amazing for you. So I feel like I'm going to impose an alcohol tax. 38% seems a bit much. I'm going to knock it to 20%. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but we need to knock this deficit down. So let's go to the next turn and see what happens. Public smoking ban. So there are a number of suspected links between smoking and poor health. Pressure groups have called for a ban on all smoking in public. I don't know if this is... This always confuses me, because I don't know if this means that public smoking in, like, a bar, or if it means outside. I really don't know, which is why I usually vote to leave it unchanged, but since I would like to, in my second term, go towards healthcare, I am going to ban it. So, 47% of the vote currently. We're doing okay. Let's continue. So, how are things going? The deficit is lower than it was. That's promising. That is definitely promising. Let's see. I still don't really want to implement a bunch of new taxes. That's for sure. I definitely don't want to implement a bunch of new taxes. I would maybe like to look at spending a little more, though. Health food subsidies might be a good idea. It might actually be an amazing idea to do free school meals, because that way you can ensure that everyone can feed their children, but it also ensures that children are eating healthily rather than surviving on junk food, which will then counter the obesity crisis that we have. The counter to that, I suppose, is that I am still wanting to make a big focus on healthcare in my second term. The vigilante mobs will be gone next turn. Alcohol abuse is still up there. The internet crime is on the decline. Antisocial behavior is on the decline. Still wiretapping. Now, this isn't popular, but I'm going to put it in place because it does fight crime, and I think on police request, let's do that one. I'm not a big fan of it, but it really does help me when it comes to not getting shot. So let's just continue to the next turn and see what's up. So, vigilante mobs are gone. Now, there is a whistleblower. A Secret Service contractor has leaked several documents that shed a light on the dark side of the war on terror. Do we prosecute or reform? I'm going to reform the Secret Service. I think that's a good idea. Reforming. 49% of the vote is fine by me. The deficit is down again, which is also amazing news. Skill shortage is consistent. The uncompetitive economy had a bump up there. It needs to go down again. The pollution is consistent, but lower than it was. The technological advantage is up a little bit. We have the drugs addiction sort of wavering down a little bit. The obesity thing is down a tiny bit. And the asthma epidemic is down a little bit as well. Now, internet crime is still on the decline. Antisocial behavior will be gone next turn. Alcohol abuse is suddenly taking a massive drop. That will be because of the tax, which will eventually become redundant because so few people are actually drinking alcohol that the tax doesn't really make money anymore. But that's okay. So what do we want to do next? This is the real question. I need to make sure I get in for my second term. I also really want to make sure that I can make the most of all of this. I also really want to have a look and make sure I haven't missed anything that would maybe let me get rid of the term limits. Because I know I could do it in Botswana, in Democracy 3 Africa. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Because it would be hilarious if I could get America to vote me in for a third time. But it really doesn't look like it, does it? So that is health, which is up a little bit. That is food prices, which are consistent. That is the environment, which is up a little bit. That is school vouchers. Okay. I don't think I'm going to touch that just yet. That's technology colleges. That is science funding. Now, science funding is something that would be nice to spend a bit more money on. But it's a tricky one. Because not only do I want to try and get rid of the major issues we're having here in America currently, I do want to try and get a surplus going here. And I know for a fact that if I wanted a surplus, I could do that. I could kill the motorists. I would most likely be assassinated for doing something like that. And it does kill the GDP as well, so it might really, really hurt. But I don't want to just look at the quickest way to do things here. Now, what's the capital we have? 25. Is my cabinet wavering a little bit? No, it seems okay. I'm not going to touch income tax. Small business grants are probably okay. The business startup campaign is fine. The space program is something I really don't know what to do with it. Because it does lead to this technological advantage. It does promote me as a strong leader. Technology is boosted, state employees are boosted, unemployment is hit hard. The religious membership does go down, but I think, can I cut $16 billion from this? If I take it down to 60 billion as opposed to 76, what do we get? We get satellites. So we currently have a reusable shuttle. What's the lowest I can go for unmanned probes? 65. Okay, well that's 11 billion that we're cutting. I actually think that's okay. Because currently I believe NASA isn't really doing much. It's SpaceX. So having a national space agency, or the North American Space Agency, having it run by the government when we have a private company already doing this stuff. I mean, it's debatable whether or not you should have a private company doing this as opposed to the government doing this. Personally, I like what SpaceX is doing. So we'll pretend that SpaceX exists in the realm of Democracy 3, and I'm gonna cut funds to the space program. I'm taking 11 billion away from them because we need that to hit this deficit. So that's some funding gone from there. Not interested in changing that currently. In terms of pollution controls, so I could really hurt the GDP by doing too many of those. I'm so tempted by this carbon tax. This airline tax is also quite popular, which is weird. Supporters of the tax insist that it results in an unfair subsidy. Wait, what? Supporters of air fuel taxes insist that this results in an unfair subsidy on an environmentally destructive form of transport. The airlines points out that taxing airline fuel will encourage them to refuel elsewhere, thereby diverting funds from our economy. See, that's what I'm thinking as well. With airlines, with a general fuel tax, which we have with a petrol tax, you do sort of have this. Wow, that is really low. What if I knocked that up to, like, if I doubled it? Yeah, that gets me a lot. What if I took that up to 10? That could be useful. Okay. Let me go to my next turn and see if I can knock the fuel tax up a little bit. There is a stress epidemic. Businesses are working people too hard. 47% of the vote. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do two things here. First off, I'm going to take this up to 10% because I need the money, which is maybe not the most popular or the best thing to do, but that's fine. What I want to do in my next quarter then is I want to look at the labor laws and push them a little bit towards balanced. That way the working week is pretty much cut in half, which I think is good. Because that way people are not going to be as stressed. Now, productivity goes down, that's not good, but that's fine. That is completely fine. So let's go to the next turn and see what's up. Antisocial behavior is over. Okay, children's food. A law has been proposed to regulate the fat content and nutritional value of food sold to children, including food sold in fast food restaurants and, of course, food served in schools. This is likely to incur costs for food retailers. Okay, so you cannot interfere with the free market. This is the state interfering in people's lives. If kids want to eat fatty junk food and the parents don't mind, then who are politicians to tell them not to eat hamburgers? I'm going to regulate it because of this line. Obesity is a major problem which has a severe impact on people's health. We're going to regulate it. 46% of the vote, that's okay. The Human Rights Society says it actively encourages its members to oppose the current government. That's fine. The deficit is 15.8 billion. So we are doing okay. Let's have a look at my cabinet and make sure we're doing okay. It's a little bit less. It was 48 as the maximum. It's 46. No, that's okay. We can absolutely look at spending a bit of money, because a deficit of $15 billion is not terrible. So I think things like youth club subsidies, which give teenagers a place to go, which keeps them out of trouble, could be useful, but I'm actually feeling that things like arts subsidies can be useful. I feel like things like... What else have we got here? Can we get the stem cell research? No, not yet. We need 45 political capital. That's a lot. Stamp out racism week. No, we'll not bother with that currently. Keep the country tidy. Healthy eating campaigns. National anthems in schools always feels weird to me. Taxes. I don't want to touch taxes yet. I'm gonna... No, police drones are very expensive. Police drones are very expensive. The witness protection program I'm going to implement because it's not as expensive and it is also vital to fighting crime. As we can see here, these guys are not the most dangerous, neither are these guys, but we have these things in place that are going to help with that. Having curfews might be an idea. Tasers might be an idea. Tasers and drones, I think, are things I want to look into. So, tasers are not that pricey. Police drones are not that popular, but are pricey. I don't think I need it yet. We haven't got any plots by capitalists or whatever, or whoever, so we're fine. Military spending. Now, this is going to be, let's say, controversial. We'll go with that word. I'm going to cut military spending. We are spending $217.59 billion every 3 months on this military, which has, I assume, overwhelming force. I'm going to go down. Highly trained, well-trained. We're going to go for highly trained. Now, we are cutting many, many billions from this. Now, here's the thing. Here is the big problem. This hurts unemployment. And not in a good way. Now what you're noticing there is as that red bar gets less, that means I'm putting quite a few people out of jobs. But the benefits are that I am getting about 50 billion for doing this, which means that money can go in to giving people other jobs. So let's go to the next turn. Let's see what the money is. The uncompetitive economy situation is over. 42% of the vote, that's not great. But we do have a party size of 14 million people. Let's see. Freedom of information. There have been calls for a law to increase the availability of information held on databases about citizens without their knowledge. Do we want to propose the Freedom Act? I'm going to propose the Freedom Act.